Okay, let's take Patch out for a walk. It is a Saturday morning, and in Scotland here it is absolutely beautiful. I think it was -2 degrees Celsius. A little bit of wind, sorry about the zip. A little bit of wind and perfect day for a dog walk in the sunshine. So I'd like to talk today about how dark entities attach to us. I'm sure we'll talk about more, but it's really just to explain a bit more about it. So perhaps start with some of the aspects of the free will universe. And so in this universe we can have we can basically choose with intention. When we set an intention for our emotions, our feelings, our actions, we are able to determine the outcome. And when we don't have intention, we can cause things like energy leaks. We can cause problems around accidentally allowing things to happen to us. And there's also a frequency aspect to this, which is our light bodies and our souls that are incarnated into this lifetime, into our human form. That we are effectively at different frequencies. So the happier we are, the higher the frequency, and the sadder we are, the lower we are, the lower the frequency. And that I also feel that parts of our human form reflect parts of our emotions or our lives. And so, for example, if we have pain or anger, that would manifest in one part of our body as a kind of an open wound in our energy, in an energetic self, in our light body. But also just in general, that your whole body, Patch, is very icy, don't run, that your whole body can basically be attached to if you leave it kind of unattended or without intention. Come on, Patch, this way. And come on. So the interesting aspect of it is think about when you go outside in the day, and just like you interact with all the sounds and energies around you, you're also interacting with energies that you can't normally see in the kind of 3D dimension. And these are energies, entities, some, and there's just a whole range of them. They're everything from the kind of elemental energies and the energetic energies of the grid of the planet that flow around, through to the weather and kind of collective consciousness. And then there's also energies like negative and positive energies. And what negative energies like to do is they like to hide. It's part of their kind of superpower, is ability to hide. I tend to see them more around they often like hang around objects. So I don't know, let's say you're walking down the street and you see like one of these kind of service boxes, like an internet box or something, or a green box. They'll hide near it, and so when you pass it, and you see it at the corner of your eye, the kind of point is that they're invisible to the kind of unawakened eye, but at the same time they can be seen in the corner of your eye. I think a lot of that's to do with the way that your human eye sees, in that the human brain is actually the thing that sees, and the human eye sees way more, but the brain just filters it out and simplifies it, and this reduces the kind of cognitive load. And then as you pass by something, and I don't know that there's any real way of avoiding them, they're kind of everywhere, but wherever you pass by a negative entity, it has the opportunity to attach to you. But you can also attract them, at any time of the day or night, and the way you attract them is through your lower vibration feelings. So by your negativity, it might be fear, you might be worried about your job or money, your relationship, or everything, and depending on the entity, it'll be more interested in specific aspects of your body, and then also as part of your the emotions. And what it's looking to do is feed. They want to feed on the negative energies of you, so that they can survive. They can't survive without you, or not for long. And they also grow as well. They also grow with that attachment. And attachments can, last for minutes, hours, days, years, lifetimes. And so through my darkness clearing healing sessions, I've seen many. Recently I saw one that was huge. It was like a large kind of hairy demon just attached to the shoulder of the client, and that was feeding off of like anger and rage, and it was really big, so I think there's a lot of anger and rage. And then also recently I saw one where the attachment was from the root chakra up to the throat, and it's, come on Patch, Patchy, come here, right. Come here Patch. And yeah, from the root to the throat. And I think what was interesting about that was that it was very intertwined. It was in the shape of the spine. It was like a kind of giant worm. And that was almost been in place for many years. I think what's interesting about the attachments, and they can be sometimes just really small, they can be like like a little leech, and a leech is a great way of describing them. No offense to leeches, but you can attach and kind of just be in a general area. So like if you've got a lot of fear and the kind of pain in the depth of your stomach, then that's how negative entities, no matter how big or small, can congregate. They can feed off that negative energy. And there's also something to do with the fact that when as your frequency your range can go higher, so as you become like a happier, high vibe person, the lower vibrations and the energy, like you're more attractive. It's a bit like a moth to a flame, and they love the light, because it's so much more powerful to feed off. And I think also, like the concept of a light worker is that they're not always paying attention to their lower vibrations. And I feel that you can be higher vibration and kind of soar above the lower vibration, so that as long as your lower vibration is not within reach of a negative entity, then you can't be attached to. And yeah, how does the attachment occur? I feel like I don't know if leeches do this, but I know there are some animals that do this, where when they attach, the parasites attach, like a tick. Like if Patch sometimes gets ticks in the summer, and they're just like little blood-sucking insects that like bite on, and then they don't let go for starters. But they also, I think, they inject like an anaesthetist, like an anaesthetic, get put into the bloodstream or the skin area, so that the host doesn't really feel it. And so I think that's also what negative entities can do. And then there's also the aspect of the feeding. And actually, there's, if you remember back in the Victorian times, people would use leeches to, as a part of a kind of cleansing, so it like take the blood of someone that was ill, and what it does is allow you to it allows you to kind of recycle the blood and improve it over time. And I guess the way that works is that you can have negative energies that come on, Petch. You can have them that come on, Petch. It's all right. Come here, Petch. You can have them that end up in a situation where Petch, come here. He's determined to see some other dogs. You can end up in a situation where they are really interested in attaching and feeding onto you for a specific reason, but also that it benefits the host, which I think is really fascinating. For a short time, I feel like some people may even invite them in to help, relieve fear, for instance. So I think emotions are like our energy, and so when you have a negative energy like fear, it's not good for the body to keep it there, and it like builds up, and it can form medical illnesses. Now, I'm not a doctor. I really don't know much about human anatomy either. I spent my life in computers, not humans. But what does happen is that it can cause, various illnesses. And so what a negative attachment can do is, by them feeding off of the fear and changing it into, kind of transmuting it into, to help the negative entity grow, then happy days. Like for a short time for the host, for the human, it's like, it's good. But I feel like that's short-lived. I don't know how long, hours, minutes, days. And the negative entity can also do things like they can invoke, to feed, they need to invoke the emotion that they're there to feed off. So if the host is like really happy and calm, that's not good, because it can't feed anymore. And so what it'll do is it'll try and influence the host to feel like the human is angry or upset or in fear, or to put them in situations, often in isolation, or depending on the strength of it. So I think that's really fascinating, because I don't really know how much that influence ranges. It feels like it could range from being very subtle, like just a kind of a blip of an emotion that you might surprise you, through to like a continued state, depending on the grip, depending on the length of time, and the amount of energy that the entity's been feeding off. So I think this is why it can work for a short time, which is that when the feeding initially happens, it's always taking away. There's always enough to feed off, and then over time it needs to generate more, because it needs to consume more. This could be behavior that you also see in parasites. I don't really know. So we talked about how they attach. It's part of the attachment. How many can you have attached? I don't think there's a limit. I know I've had attachments and clearings of things like, often around my heart, for for a while I remember I was very stressed at work, and it kind of built this stillness up in my heart. And I'm pretty sure there was also like attachments there, so my heart chakra was very kind of dim, and it felt like this constant stress, almost like a blood pressure. I could almost feel it when I breathed in my lungs. But when it was cleared by a dear friend, Lotus Leo, on Instagram, like, she did a clearing for me, and the next day I just felt like magic. I felt like I'd been on a holiday for about 3 years, and that was incredible. And I think that was kind of the trigger point for me that made me realize that there's something in this, that if you clear, it has a profound effect physically on you. And it just helps me so much. It was quite funny because that night I'd had really bad sleep. My son's spare mattress, because he wasn't sleeping well. Come on, Patch. And I didn't sleep much. I slept about 3 or 4 hours. Yet I felt incredible. And then what else? Yeah, I've also had some clearing work, like Jenny from Starseed Academy, who'd cleared out. She'd helped me bring in one of my Lyran guides, and they'd gone into like my stomach area and solar plexus, and really helped clear that out. And they're like kind of little leeches that were just hanging about that needed cleared. And same with my collaborator and mentor, Steph, Soul Reviving, Stephanie. She performed a clearing on me, and I think it was quite similar, like there's some kind of small entities hanging around. So that was really good. I found it super beneficial. And yeah, what I do in my sessions is, first of all, for every session when I start them, I just go through and ask a guide for the client to step forwards and to communicate and to help guide where I can help the most. And what I love about that is it's different every time. In recent sessions, I've often been guided to go to the Torment. I've often been guided to start with an energy clearing, and we tend to do like a scan, so I can see like their light body, and then their human body, and also their guides. We all stand in a circle, and like we put our hands over just hovering above the head, and commence a scan through kind of like an energy scan, and that's usually pretty effective at picking up entities. To remove them is just in a few different ways. It includes things like kind of blasting with energy. There's also Archangel Michael is like super helpful, and he'll do things like he has like a light sword, as do I, so I can use my light sword too, and we use those to, it never harms light, but you can remove attachments, and sometimes the attachments, well, quite often it's almost like their head stays attached. Like you can take the body off like a leech, but its head remains, and so quite often not always, but the entities has to be destroyed, and so sometimes it's a case like smaller ones you can tend to clear and just remove, often just with energy, and then the larger ones that are much more attached, and there's been a lot more codependency, you tend to have to like cut through, and as you do that severing, you're able to just make sure that it is then like transmuted off into light, and or it can just leave, go back to where it came from, not on the host. The other thing that I often do is once the attachment's fully removed, there's just like healing to be done. So that's when Archangel Raphael is like really helpful. And so with that healing, you're then able to really work through the whole light body and remove anything and then heal anything that was previously attached to. And the range of effects that, when an attachment is there, the range of effects it can have, like we talked about, the kind of influence over emotions. There's also the physical kind of harm that it does, because our bodies are energetic, our human bodies as well as our light bodies. And then there's also like the wounding. So I have seen in extreme cases, like the light body actually, I've seen someone with a chunk of they were attacked, and they were actually actively fighting and a demon, and they had this big kind of hole in their shoulder, and so they needed a lot more care and attention, and that was really beautiful to be able to help. And we did, like, we restored the light body back, and they did say that they felt this physically in their shoulder for a few days after the event, until I was able to get some. So yeah, that's really beautiful. And I was also asked recently just to explain a bit about the lower vibrations, lower realms. I was asked, does hell exist? It does. It does exist, and I've been there many times. But it is not. I don't know. It's not like a single place. And perhaps a better way of describing realms are to first think of the frequencies. So at the very highest frequency, you have like the highest kind of heaven-like dimensions, and then at the lowest frequency you have the lowest aspects of hell. And so when I go through the clearing sessions, when I'm doing a soul retrieval aspect of them, which will just be guided to follow, we go into a waiting room, we choose the door that has the lowest frequency. It's often guarded by a demon, because it's like this, I think in part symbolic, like, step through your fear to step into activating and unlocking like your whole human form. Apologies for the traffic, it's usually pretty quiet. And when I get to the room and I go through the door, I'll tend to, I always look to the right of me, and I can see the numbers on the elevator, and there you choose the level. And so I always look for like the name or guided to the number of the person that we're going to help with the soul retrieval for. And then I don't know what Patch is doing, just kind of running around in the grass. And yes, the numbers are really interesting. So at the highest, the highest number, it's really interesting because that's, I guess, like the upper regions of what you might call hell. And what does it look like? I don't really know. I think it's just a bit darker. It's like a kind of darker version of Earth or a realm. I feel a bit like when you go into the elevator, that when you come out, the elevator's like a kind of wormhole, and so in the portal you'll end up through any potential reality. But it is the level, the number represents the frequency. Most of the time, when I'm doing soul retrieval, it will be into the lower numbers. Well, I'm not really sure which way it works around. I think the higher the number, the lower the realm. And then Often what I see when I get there is you open the doors and it's like kind of what you expect. It's red, there are flames, there are screams, it's big. There's, the reality of them is basically that the souls that are there are just in kind of eternal torment. But depends on the level of torment. And it's kind of like this. Have you ever seen movies where people have like infinite time loops? Like they're like someone's trapped in it, like, or an infinite kind of death loop where they're dying over and over in their worst possible states. It's that kind of level of torment. And sometimes when I've been down there to retrieve part of a soul, there's actually just someone's part of their soul. Like you see a being aspect of them, and they're just lying, kind of hiding. So they're like under a rock or kind of cover themselves, because there are like physical laws to the or energetic laws to that dimension as well, and so you can hide, maybe not forever, but I think what's fascinating by that is that you just end up in a situation where you're able to help them. So yeah, you're able to help the person and just help retrieve that part of their soul. Usually the way we get out is, so it's not always, I keep saying usually, it's different every time, but most commonly I'll be going in and we'll be climbing out together. So it's things like, imagine a very grim wall that's kind of made of knives, or like hard black rocks that are like knives, and they just shred your hands and skin and your light body, like as you go up through them. And so obviously it's meant to prevent you from climbing higher. I think it's also just like a kind of psychological thing. So anyway, what I often do is I climb up with the client, and at the top they'll be waiting there, will be like their angel or their guide to help them just over the edge. And then we're like healed at the top. So from what I've described as just there's also like lots of different variations. So sometimes, a couple of times I've been to like a void, and so what happens is the person is they've kind of put their part of their soul in exile. Come on, Patch. Hiya. And as part of that exile, they've purposely hidden an aspect of their soul to stay away. And so when I've been there with their light body, and you go and visit this part of the soul, it's often pretty sad. They're very lonely in this kind of just infinite empty black void. And I think the times that we've left have been we have to go back through hell. So they're basically access through the same elevator, and they have a low vibration to them, but they're like, I guess they're just a different type of kind of torment. But yeah, in those you go in and retrieve the soul, bring them back, or you might complete the integration there, or back up when you get up to higher vibrations. And I've also had a couple of times where leaving these lower vibration realms, leaving hell, you end up walking through an area that has loads of demons. One time I was with Archangel Michael, and they were like, the guide that I was with was saying, he is not welcome here. And actually the client's kind of higher self was able to wrap their wings around him and hide his light, which is so bright. So we almost got out undetected, and then there was one that notices just on the way out. So, but it was too late. We'd gone. Yeah, so I thought that was fascinating. And then I've also said to clients, and I've had this myself, is that the other kind of ability of darkness is to be able to manipulate behind the scenes and manipulate through others. So sometimes you find that in order to trigger you and for you to generate the energy they want to feed off, that they end up triggering those around you or attacking those around you. And so it's also important to just first of all be aware of this, and then secondly to know that the way that you can deal with that is by, if your partner, your friend, your loved one, whoever they are, is triggering you, just kind of look at them and just send them love, just for a second, and you'll see if their kind of true emotions really shine through or not. And it's quite often before like darkness clearing sessions that I'll get some kind of crazy interruption, and like that it's not going to go ahead, and also that the client has the same experience. And I think it's just a way of, I guess, although the darkness doesn't really work together like a team, they are connected, and so that can often come through. So yeah, I think that's about it. And I think just to end on how you can protect yourself, definitely meditate every day. I now meditate morning and night, and I just, in the meditation, I surround myself with the golden light. It comes from the source and the centre of the planet and my heart, and I set the intention that all darkness must leave immediately. This is a free will universe after all. And I also call my archangels, like Archangel Michael's great at clearing, that's his job. And then also just, discerning, like making sure you're thinking about who you connect with, and if you're ever not sure, especially if you're in my line of, then set up your protection before you connect, set your intention before you connect, and then, of course, the inevitable sales pitch. If you need help, you can contact me. There's other people that do similar work to me, so you can talk to them also. And yeah, just remember to keep high vibe, keep happy, and 99% of the time you don't have to worry about these things. Take care.